There's been some talk about the Adkins woman having said something to a cellmate which gave you a lead, but it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that she simply confirmed some of the things you already knew.
She confirmed some of the things we already knew, and she did tell us some new things which we hadn't heard before.
Mm-hmm. Now, how about a man I've heard of, a burglary suspect in your Venice division, who also supplied some information?
Yes, he supplied the information a few days after we had originally started our investigation and had talked with the sheriff's investigators on the Hindman case. This man who was in jail in the Venice division did supply some information and names of additional people who might help us and supply additional information.
Aside from the people we've just mentioned, are there any other persons, men or women, who have supplied additional information for you? Perhaps you can't give us their names at this time, but...
No, I can't give you their names, but there was another girl who assisted prior to Susan Atkins starting to talk. Her name was given to us by the sheriff's office. She had also assisted in the Hindman.
Turn around once, girls, will you? Come on, there, girls.
First of all, I believe it's very clear that Mr. Manson always has been denied counsel of his choice in this matter. Back in December, he was asking to have Mr. McKissick and Mr. Steinberg as his attorneys of record, and I would hope possibly to try and get them involved in this case, possibly even to substitute out and have them substitute in.
Is this your first case that you'll be trying?
Yeah, this will be the first case that I've ever tried.
How long have you been an attorney?
Just since last June.
And why did you want to get into this one?
Well, I believe that there are a lot of things going down in this case, just as in the Chicago 7 cases, and there's a lot. I think you would have a much better shot if you weren't talking with me, but you were picking up some of the friends of Manson over there who were singing.
Are you going to go ahead with the psychiatric examination?
No, we've withdrawn the psychiatric examination. I've seen Mr. Manson in county jail for probably more than any other attorney, 70, 80 times, and it's certainly my feeling that Mr. Manson is sane. There's no question about his sanity in my mind.
You feel you're capable of defending that?
I believe that probably, as Mr. Manson stated earlier, that no man is capable of representing another, and that I feel that it's unfortunate that the court is screwed around, if you pardon the expression, with Mr. Manson's representation, that it's because of the things that the court has done that Mr. Manson was originally forced to go pro.
Ron Hughes just told me that this will be the very first case he's ever tried of any kind. Do you see him substituting out a little later and Mr. Manson substituting someone else in?
I cannot predict what Mr. Manson will do.
Well, how long legally can a defendant keep substituting attorneys?
I think that this will be his last substitution because he has chosen Mr. Hughes. He's consulted with Mr. Hughes on at least a dozen occasions that we know of. And so he knows what he's getting when he asks for Mr. Hughes. And Mr. Hughes can also consult with the other attorneys who have many years of practical experience and trial experience.
What's your answer? Good morning. Right?
Yeah. Hey, Rich? Rich? Mr. Hughes, give us your Would you give us your comment on the procedure in there today?
Well,
You've been
first-
substituted in as Mr. Manson's attorney. Your,
Experience at all?
No, I'm not.
you feel you're fully capable of defending a man charged with 3 counts of conspiracy and 4 counts of murder?
Well, he's charged actually with 7 counts of murder and only 1 count of conspiracy. Allow him to have associate counsel, and then from other things that the court has done, this has later forced the court to take that pro per status away. Mr. Manson at points was getting very close to a number of truths, exposing the system of criminal justice that we have in this country, that a man who is allowed to defend himself is, on paper, is allowed to defend himself, but in actuality, he was not allowed to defend himself. As you recall, at one point, Mr. Manson wrote a letter to the district attorney pointing out that the terrible odds that he was at, that the district attorney had these wonderful facilities in which to try and convict him and seek his death, and yet Mr. Manson had to wait for an hour and a half to make a 10-minute phone call.
You said
The pro per status again.
I would hope to get Mr. Manson's pro per status back. I imagine that will be very difficult, and it might very well be impossible.
Tell us something about yourself, Mr. Hughes.
Reiner came into court this morning with a signed motion in his briefcase making him the attorney of record. Yet Manson substituted you in at the last moment. Was this a last-minute decision? Did he have something up with Ira Reiner until he came into court this morning?
I'm really not sure about that.
Mr. Hughes, you first.
Oh, okay. Let's talk to Aaron. Roll on this. Where do we stand in this matter now?
Well, we stand that was set for trial on April the 20th, 1970. The case is presently set in Judge Keene's court. Next week on March 24th, Ms. Krenwinkel makes a motion for a change of venue and for a motion to dismiss. If those motions are denied, then her case, too, will be set as it is now for April the 20th. We're prepared to go to trial now, and we're prepared to go to trial against this so-called common defense.
Is due to go to trial the 23rd of April in Santa Monica on another matter. She's due to go to trial here on the other matter.
Yes.
Now, how's it going to work out?
Well, she can't be in 2 places at once, so if this trial starts before the other one will have to wait for her to get finished
It'll
here.
have to trail then.
Yes.
Thank you.
Several things happened today, among which is that Mr. Manson's petition for a writ of habeas corpus, the court held that inasmuch as Manson was not pro per at the time he filed that motion, that he did not have standing to file the motion with the court. He had an attorney of record, Ronald Hughes. Hughes should have filed the petition for a writ of habeas corpus. With respect to Susan Atkins' motion to set aside her admissions and confessions at the grand jury, the court held that the motion today was premature, and the trial court would have to hear that motion once the trial commenced.
Mr. Cavallaro and I were subpoenaed as witnesses by Mr. Shin, Miss Atkins' attorney, and on the representation by Mr. Stovitz of the District Attorney's Office that the people would not rely upon her confessions or admissions or statements. The judge ruled the matter was not before the court this morning, and the entire matter went off calendar.
Does this mean that her grand jury testimony will likely not be entered in the Manson trial?
At this moment, that is the indication.